to step back, pause, step back and say, is this thing really working? Yeah. Is there a better way to do this? Can we have a rethink? Can we rejig the system so that we can have a better society? Because right now, it's not okay. And that's why you see that those who grew under that corporal punishment didn't think of, action and consequences and all of that. It was just a matter of a big person, bigger than them, was there to make sure you did right. And now that they are the big people, nobody is controlling them. That habit, that thought pattern, that behavioral system of, action and consequence is not there in them. So now they know that they can do and undo, and so they're doing that.
The video of a little child who was being beaten by his teacher brutally has gone around social media, and I'm definite you would have seen it. How did you feel about that video? My name is Gloria Umuna, founder of Phonics Academy. Today, we will be discussing how to create a safe space for children and compassionate discipline and emotional well-being in schools and at home. I have two guests with me to discuss this topic extensively. To my left, I have
Sele Aneni.
And to my right, I have
Adiayo, the king's daughter.
It's so good to have you on set.
Thanks for having us.
Good to be here.
Okay, so today we'll be talking about fostering safe spaces for children, and compassionate discipline and emotional well-being at home and in schools. I would like you to talk about your experience with children, and as a therapist, what has your experience with children been so far?
All right, so my experience with children has been a multifaceted thing, because you have children who have experienced different things based on the different backgrounds they're coming from. And as a therapist, having to deal with that sometimes can be really heartbreaking, because you see a child who has gone through a turbulent background or a broken home or something. It always has a way of reflecting, no matter how the child wants to hide it or doesn't even realize that that's the reason why they're reacting a certain way. There always going to be, or there always will be repercussions and side effects as regards to the children who have gone through trauma vis-a-vis the children who have not gone through trauma.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And sir, how's your experience with the home, children, and schools, the government also? How's it been like over the years?
That's a wide one. But let me start from the home front. I dare say a lot of parents don't really take time to understand or even examine communications with their children. Most times the communication is just one way. So I won't call that communication, because really communication is said to be complete when there's a sender, there's a receiver, and then the desired feedback is gotten. Most times you just talk one way and expect the child will comply. And when the child doesn't comply, then he gets the big stick or gets yelled at which is what brings us to this point. A lot of us have gotten used to administering the big stick, either by slapping or by hitting or, one physical thing or the other, all in the name of spare the rod and spoil the child, rod of correction and all of that. And it's causing more damage than good. Now, that's not to say that children should not be disciplined. That's not to say that there shouldn't be consequence management. I don't like using the word punishment. It should be consequence management, which means when you talk about consequence management, there's good consequence, there's bad consequence. And a child should learn early enough that every time they do something, there's a consequence for that thing they've done, whether it's good or it's bad. And so as parents, we should learn. I'm talking from the home front now. As parents, we should learn that every time a child does something, celebrate that child.
Definitely.
But most people like us, we grew up only knowing that we've done something wrong. Is when you've done something wrong that you get the repercussion. When you do something good, nobody even says anything. And in the time of our parents, they say, when you praise the child too much, his head will swell, he will relax, he will not perform anymore. So they were always reinforcing the negative things you do by way of punishment, by way of scolding, and when you did good, everybody just looked and pretended like they didn't see it.
Yeah.
And that had its effects too. But now that we know better, I always advocate to say, do consequence management for your children. Good consequences, bad consequences. Every time you do something, train them to think about the consequences before they do it. And then you reinforce that in them by actually practicalizing it. They do well in school, praise them. They do well at home, they wash their dishes after so many times of correction. The day they eventually wash the dish without correction, then you celebrate them. Hey, you've done it. You see, you can do it. And the child feels good.
Yeah.
And then the day he doesn't wash, and there should be repercussion. And you know, I told you, if you do good, you get celebrated. If you do bad, this is what will happen. And so this is what's going to happen now. So they understand, not that you just whack them with a backhand. Some of us had parents who were very, very adept at, rolling the backhand, or, I mean, the way they target you with their... Did anybody know skull slippers? That's wooden. So some parents were very good at just aiming, and they never miss. No matter how you try to run or dodge, they get you with it, I think we should move past that now. That was an age and an era, and that's far gone now. Children have learn to be more expressive, and there's a lot going on in the environment. And so that brings us to school. But you see, school is a reflection of home. The teacher comes from a home. The children come from a home. And so if we are all expressing that way and always just quick to scold, quick to find faults, then when we come to school, it won't change. And then, of course, you can't even gauge how people react to things that they don't like, especially the teachers. Some teachers have a short fuse and they bring it to the school. Some teachers, well, they're nice and all of that. And, but we're not looking at the nice part now, because most times the nice part, they have their own repercussions too, but we're talking about for, the correction purposes, because you started with that viral video and something led to that, which we'll talk about later. It's basically a lack of emotional intelligence, but we'll be looking at that later. Now, coming to government, we're saying, yes, people will always be people. We're a bag of emotions, every single one of us. We react differently to different things, to different triggers, to different stimulus within the environment. So we're all a bag of emotions. We have different perceptions. There are things that have happened to us in the past that when we see something looking like it arouses certain feelings and moods and emotions in us. So we are a bag of emotions. However, government is an institution that should make sure that these things don't just fly around anyhow. There should be a standard way of behaving within the school system. And that's what has given birth to policies. Now, I don't have an issue with government policies in Nigeria. If you check the constitution and all of those things, and government policies on education, fantastic. The problem is implementation. But I'll stop here for now, and we'll talk more about that later.
Thank you very much, sir. That was an extensive one. Thank you so much. And communication, made emphasis on communication with our children, how parents should communicate to children, government, the part governments have to play in ensuring a safe space for children, and the part schools have to play. And that was really extensive. Thank you so much, sir. Ma, is there a difference between discipline and punishment?
That's a trick question. Punishment is literally repercussion for bad behavior. Discipline, from the word disciple, is supposed to be tailored and geared towards change of character, of behavior, of mindset. So they can't exactly be the same thing. Because if I'm going to punish someone for doing something, then it means I really don't want to know why they did it, what was going through their head or whatever. I just want to inflict pain and make them feel pain and feel bad for what they've done. Discipline, on the other hand, is me saying, I want to understand why you did this thing. What was going through your head? What was your motivation for it? And then obviously your thinking pattern and your motivations were warped. So now let's help you see how to do things better. Because you see, the moment we focus on punishment alone, especially when it's physically applied or inflicted, what we're doing is that we're teaching the child that this is the acceptable way to handle issues. Violence is acceptable way to handle issues. If my dad slaps me or my mom slaps me, I'm saying, okay, the moment somebody does something wrong to me, it's okay for me to slap the person. It's okay for me to hit the person. But when I begin to learn from my parents or from my teachers that violence and physical infliction of pain is not the solution, then we're actually engaging discipline and then changing mindset, changing paradigms. And in the end, we change the society. So I can't say it's the same.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for that. Thank you so much. And sir, people would say that corporal punishment gave results in the olden days, like these were fathers. And now, would discipline give us that same result? These days, we see all sorts. People behave in ways that we see as are not socially acceptable. Is it because we have dumped punishment and imbibed discipline? And she said something about discipline. Discipline is not corporal. You don't inflict pain on them. You have you have communication with a child. You try to find out why they did what they did, and have to have communication with them to ensure you direct them the right to behave the right way. So, how do you think discipline will be effective if we have to implement it now?
Okay. I want to just set a few things straight. Discipline, punishment, one is a subset of the other. Punishment comes when there is a break in discipline. So it's an aftermath of a lack of discipline. Now, what is discipline itself? Discipline means to follow after or to keep one followed after, which suggests that there can't be discipline if there are no rules. There can't be discipline if there's no set of behavioral patterns that should be observed. Now, it is when those patterns or rules are flouted or gone against, then there gives a need or gives a rise to punishment. Now, punishment in itself is not a bad thing and it's not a negative thing. After all, what we do at the end of the day is train our children to understand that if you do wrong, at the end of the day, when you are a grown-up, you might serve more punishment, and that's what the law courts are there for. You've broken the rules, the constitution this time, though we're starting with the children because they're small, so it's just rules and regulations, do's and don'ts. But as you grow up, you find out that there's a constitution that you must follow, and if you break it, you will serve punishment. That is and that's what the courts are there for. That's what the judges, the legal system, and all of that. So what you are really doing is training that child. However, most of us don't, we're not cognizant of the fact of what we're doing. We're more emotionally involved. And so we just do things emotionally instead of rationally. Do you understand? So when you are hitting a child, for instance, does the child even understand what's going on? Why did you hit me? I just know that I did something, you got angry, and then boom. And every time I trigger, and you know, there are sometimes some parents, you don't even have to break any rules or anything. Just irritate me enough, that's all. And I will lash out at you.
Exactly.
And some children grew up in that environment. And so you say, some people are advocating that, corporal punishment and all of that. But those same people who went through corporal punishment are the crooks of today. They are the
I agree.
yes.
I really agree. I agree.
Yeah, you have to agree because we're seeing the evidence everywhere. Those same people who went through the corporal punishment of those days are the ones scattering Nigeria now. So how effective was it really? So it wasn't really about that, and we should be able to step back, step back and say, is this thing really working? Is there a better way to do this? Can we have everything? Can we rejig the system so that we can have a better society? Because right now, it's not okay. And that's why you see that those who grow under that corporal punishment didn't think of, action and consequences and all of that. It was just a matter of a big person bigger than them was there to make sure you did right. And now that they are the big people, nobody is controlling them. That habit, that thought pattern, that behavioral system of action and consequence is not there in them. So now they know that they can do and undo, and so they're doing that. People are killing people and getting away with it because there's no big stick anymore. They are the big guns and nobody can touch them. And that's what happens in a society where the children did not grow up understanding action and consequences.
Thank you so much, Safata. Thank you so much. That was really extensive. Ma'am, I would like to ask you a question. Punishment, the corporal punishment these people or our fathers, our people in our generation, yes, the older generation have faced, they may have led to traumas. Yes. And he mentioned something, he mentioned the fact that it's affecting our society now. How would you like to expatiate on that?
Okay, I like the balance he brought when because we're not just saying punishment, we're saying corporal punishment.
Yes.
So we need to, because punishment will always be as a result, will always come in place where when people step out of line, there has to be some sort of consequence. Okay, that's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
We're talking about excessive force. We're talking about trauma. And I keep saying this thing. I said, we're not okay in this country. No, we're not okay. Because we just believe that violence is the solution to every problem. And there's a lot of emotional intelligence, there's a lot of trauma-informed awareness now that because we hear this quote that wounded people bleed on other people. And I think that's what's happening in our society today. We have people who have been traumatized, and instead of learning from trauma and healing from trauma to do better by the next generation, we think it's just okay to replicate what was done to us. So we have a generation who felt it was okay to use blades to mark their children because to teach them lessons. I have people. I know people like that.
I know so many.
Who think if the child broke the plate, then a piece of that plate should be used to mark the child.
So that tomorrow he will not try it again.
Exactly. I remember my son doing something. I said, if you break that plate, I'm going to mark you with that. And he said, "It's a lie. Can't do it." He knows I'm not crazy. And this is not to that those parents were crazy. But I'm saying they just passed down trauma because they thought, if I was trained like that and I grew up to be this kind of person, then I am okay. No, sir. No, ma. You are not okay. Because if you think it's okay to take glass or blade to scratch the child because they did something wrong, then there's a problem. And so we need to understand that as a nation, we are 95% not okay. And we need to actually sit down with ourselves. Grandparents, parents need to sit down with their kids and begin to reevaluate how they trained the next generation. Because I still have people who take stools and throw it at their kids, who take omorogun and throw it at their kids, who whatever they find, they feel it's okay to just lash out. And yes, and then I was talking with someone else and I said, society wasn't even that bad then, and our parents were that aggressive. So it's scary to think about what's happening in this generation where things are really upsetting, people are really frustrated, and trauma keeps happening. So we can no longer keep quiet. And when I looked at that video, and like I said, I couldn't watch the video completely because I was boiling, and I was like, that was my child. I will be in school. Oh Lord, I will be in school, and the school will know that I am there. Because I've had to do that a couple of times in defense. Because I'm sure by the time those people watch this video, they're like, that woman. Because even when I want to display my kids, I'm cautious. Because I know I'm angry. And even the Bible says be angry but sin not. Because in your anger, you can undo.
Yeah.
And all you say is, sorry, I did not know. It was not my intention. And that's where the emotional intelligence comes in. But as per trauma, we need to heal as a nation, as a family. Because even if we say to government, where are the policies in place? Like the Nigerian government is apt and perfect in crafting policies. And I say this very boldly and very confidently. But when it comes to implementation,
that's
we
where
are
the issues
nowhere.
are.
And so, because you see, if we say no more corporal punishment in schools, who is going to implement it? The person who thinks it's okay to kick and slap a kid? So that's the thing.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. And one thing I want to talk about now is alternatives. We've spoken about corporal punishment, discipline, and how we should discipline children. What are the alternatives we can discipline children? How can we discipline children without inflicting pain on them? As a teacher, let me talk about this a little bit. As a teacher over 15 years, I do not believe in beating children. One of the things I do when I get to the classroom, when I meet my new pupils for the first time, I try to build love. Right? I try to build an environment that is safe and lovely. You just know, oh yeah, Miss Gloria, I'm happy to see you. We go play outside when it's break time. We have a good time. We tell stories. I listen to them. I get to know them. I get to make them comfortable enough to relate with me. I had a child. This new session we resumed. A child was in my class who I noticed would not look into my eyes. I noticed he would be in the class, and when he realizes that I'm looking at him and he's talking to someone, he'll put his head on his table. And I was wondering, he put his head on his table. I was wondering, why does he feel like I'm going to punish him? Why is he not confident to express himself in the class? And I had to call him many times and made him feel comfortable, assured him that he's free to play with his friends. I told him, it's okay to go and play. Yes, go and play. And because of him, I would allow everybody play sometimes. Many times I would allow them play when they are supposed to
Be doing
other activities. So I make sure the activities they do are playful activities that lead to learning. And he was able to get free and comfortable. He could talk to me and look in my face again. And I was super happy about that. Now that's safe environment. Now I built this relationship with them because I know one day they will want to test me. Children like to test adults. They want to test me with their regular behavior. And when they try to do that, I just change my tone. And once I change my tone from that lovely Miss Gloria to that other, don't try that. They just adjust. Most times that works for me. And sometimes I have to tell them to go to the naughty corner, to stand for a while. And sometimes when it's time to play on the playground, I take them along with every other child. The child I want to punish, I take them along with me. And I do something. I just tell them to sit down in the corner. And they watch us play. I know that's a lot on them because it makes them feel like, oh my God, no, I want to join. And after some time, to teach them forgiveness, after some minutes, I'll tell them, I'll have a conversation with them. Now, this is what you did, and this is how I felt about it. Now, how do you feel about not being able to play with your friends? And then I forgive them. I tell them, I've forgiven you, and you must not do it again. Now, I'm trying to teach them forgiveness. And I'm trying to model a behavior that I want them to carry along with them in the future and also create a safe space for them in the classroom. So, sir, as a father of many years, a grandfather, what other disciplinary measure would you recommend for teachers, for parents to carry out on their children?
Okay, I will pick up from where you said the children will always want to test you.
Yes.
That's so true. And it shows that, yes, you're really experienced with the children, because no matter how nice you are, it's just a natural thing. They're curious. They want to test something and say, okay, this thing, in fact, the best way to get a child to do something is to tell them not to do it. Because then they are curious. Okay, they say I should not do it. If I do it, what will happen? So they want to just go and try it. And so you must be ready for that. And readiness for that means you don't flip when they do it. Because you know that, it's like getting angry when a dog is barking. It's a dog, it will bark. And so the same thing, the children, they will be curious, they will try something, they will step out of what you say they should not do. out of that curiousness. Some are just naturally naughty. They, activities and all that. They just want to. So when that happens, you should already have something in your mind or at the back of your mind to say, when this happens, how do I handle the situation? So that when it does happen, you are ready. Because most times, a lot of us haven't thought it through. And then these things happen, and we're so angry. Especially maybe it involves breaking something or spoiling something that I cherish so much and all that. But really, you cherish them above your kids. But we don't stop to ask ourselves at that time. We're just so angry in the moment. But if you've thought it through, then you would have taken certain steps, like talking to them before that time, number one. But what I recommend for people nowadays is have a punishment box or a punishment jar. Just to tell you that I'm not against punishment. I'm against corporal punishment. Children should learn punishment as a teacher of consequences for bad behavior. Because if you do not teach them to take responsibility for bad behavior, you're also training a child in a terrible way. In fact, that's no training at all.
Yes.
And then they grow up and they become irresponsible. What's the irresponsibility? I refuse to answer for my bad behavior. That's irresponsibility. Simple. And we know a lot of adults who are like that now. We see them all. A lot of our politicians are like that. Bad behavior every day. Even on the streets, you see traffic light says stop. And some people just zing past. And then you say, wait, and then they're abusing you on top of it. It started from somewhere. It didn't start overnight.
Yeah.
And that's the final destination. They become full-blown adults who refuse to take responsibility for bad behavior. And so punishment is key. Now, when you have a punishment box, what do? You sit the children down and discuss. If you are caught doing this, what should we do? Let them suggest, and then you moderate. So when they agree on what the punishment should be, write it down on that piece of paper, fold it, throw it in the box, and then ask them different things, around the house. If you don't do your homework, what should we do? What should be the punishment? Let them suggest, you moderate, you write it, and so on and so forth, till you have quite a number of pieces of paper folded neatly inside the box. The day they misbehave, go inside the punishment box and pick one punishment. They know that they were the ones who sat down and formulated that punishment policy. So whatever is in there, you must do it so that you know that next time. And then also, you can have celebration weekends, maybe one weekend in the month to say, okay, all those who have been of good behavior, we're going out to celebrate. You, how many times did you pick from the punishment box? You, how many? And anybody who has picked more than 2, sorry. No celebration for you.
That's so cool.
So you sit at home and everybody else goes out to have fun.
That's so
It's so painful.
Painful.
It's painful.
That's really
But you realize that it's my hand I used to do myself. And you didn't have to hit anybody. You have to, as the child grows up, every time he wants to take an action, he thinks it through. What will this thing lead to? Subconsciously. He doesn't even need to call a conference or anything. His mind is already programmed. And you see, those are the formative years. So when you do that, automatically, you see, when everybody is jumping the fence in school to go and do X, Y, Z, he's not coming from the point of my father is not here to beat me. My mom is not here to deal with me. He's coming on what's the consequence of jumping this fence? That's the best way to go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. That was extensive. Ma, please, would you like to contribute to this? Talk about some alternative disciplines.
Okay, so one thing I do as a mother of 3, one thing and I don't always get it. I don't, because I'm very volatile. And on the spur of the moment, I may have lashed out. But into lashing out, I've always learned to try to rein in. And then I call everybody. And then we have that discussion. And it's usually a very heavy discussion because recently I was talking to my first daughter and I was talking to the 2 younger ones who had misbehaved and I was trying to talk to them. And I said, go and call your older sister. And I said, come. Do you know? She said something. She said, I can never forget the things you are saying right now. They're ingrained in my head. Like you said them to the point that wherever I am, they're just ringing, they are there. So I think parents, we need to get to the point where you can have conversations. You may be upset. Take some time out to cool down and then call the child and have that conversation. You need to be able to talk to your child and have the conversation and let the child understand what they've done that doesn't make sense. And like he says, consequences. This thing you've done, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
This thing that you failed to do, this is what's going to happen. Like as an exam my daughter had to write and had been saying, read, and then she took it for granted. She still passed the exam, but she didn't get the score sheet. And then she started crying. I said, do you see that feeling that you feel right now? That's it. That's exactly what I've been trying to avoid. But hey, you brought it upon yourself. So I believe parents, teachers need to begin to have conversations, and no child is too young to have a conversation. I remember my first was about 3 years old and I was talking to her. I was upset and I was talking to her. No wonder she says, I can't forget it in English, they're ingrained. Somebody says, is it your little girl? I said, yes, she has ears. She has a brain. She can understand. Sincerely, she can. And another thing I would say, especially to parents, is I know that when we're growing up, the abuse vocabulary, they finished it on us. There are insults that I vowed I would never repeat to my kids because they were really traumatic. I would actually think as in, oh, is it true that my head is...
Yes.
And my dad was very descriptive. Oh, I see that in my son, very descriptive. And I'm like, and because that's an authority figure, it sticks. So parents should, for me, I'm a believer. And so if I want to correct, I am going to use scriptures to correct you. Because I may not have another time to pull out that scripture to teach you.
Yeah.
So you may be, you have, as a parent, you have your philosophy, you have your belief system. If you're okay with that belief system and your child growing in that belief system, then instead of using all the insults in this entire world, take from your belief system and begin to teach and correct. And we'll see that we're not just discipline and punishing, but we're also growing and redirecting.
I was a very lucky child. In fact, all my siblings were lucky because of my parents. We had parents who were very conscious about what they said to their children.
Wow.
You know, so it's hard for me to look at my child or any of my children and say those kind of things. It's hard, really hard. But I've seen, in fact, I've had to fight some parents. When you look at your child and then, I can't even say them here. Strong words, cross words. Yeah. And then I say, do you know how much this child believes in you?
Exactly.
And then you say this thing, he will believe what you say. No, he knows that. I say, how does he know? How does he know? You erode the confidence of the child, you set certain things in motion in that child's life, and then you start to wonder, why is this child behaving like this?
Exactly.
Something that you have ordained with your own mouth.
Yeah.
You know, so it's one thing, and like I said, I've had to fight parents over it, and they don't seem to think it's anything. I'm talking about this modern day Nigeria. They don't seem to think it's anything.
Yeah.
Some even curse the child out.
Wow.
Right, outright.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so if this thing that you just said to this child happens, who's going to go to the hospital?
You'll be the one running up and down.
Who's going to? So have you seen that you're doing yourself now? You know, so it's a point to note.
Yes, there's a point to note. You know, the Bible even says that death and life are in the power of the tongue, and what you say over your child really matters. Another point that I picked from our conversation is making these rules together. He mentioned something like picking from the jar, making the rules together. In my classroom, I remember I'll tell them, okay, if you do this, what should I do? Or what should happen? What will you say? What will be the consequences? Say, okay, I'll go and stand in not a corner. I won't go to the playground or something. So when you make the rules together, sometimes I make two rules for two punishments, positive punishment for every negative behavior. I say, okay, if you do this, this is going to happen, or this is going to happen. So when you've done it, you choose your punishment. So So when they get to choose their punishment, they know that I'm the one choosing this, and they know that
And
this
there's
is
no
my,
escaping it.
and there is no escaping, and they understand, and you pass your message across. Thank you so much for that. Now, another point we have here is understanding parent-child relationship, which is very important. The role parents have to play in building their child's their child's life, their child's emotions, and everything, and to build a safe space for their children. Now, how can parents build a stronger emotional connection with their children, sir? How can they build a stronger emotional connection with their children? I know that parents have to be there for their children, and there are more points that our viewers would like to know. Please, would you like to expatiate on
Okay,
that?
you've asked how they can. The first response that comes to my mind is don't judge.
Oh, yes.
You listen.
We don't judge.
I started laughing at that thing, and people have, taken it to extreme levels, But there's a truth behind that thing.
Yeah.
Listen and don't judge. No matter how your body is doing, you listen to the end
Yes.
first. Then you now say, okay, process what you've just heard, and then don't get carried away by the activity that the child is reporting to you. Ask yourself, how do I get the child to understand the consequences behind this thing that he or she has done,
Yeah.
without making the child feel judged? Because guess what? They tell you the first time, you judge, that's the end.
That's the end.
They shut down. And you see, if your child is not talking to you, be sure that child is talking to somebody else. And then how are you sure that the person who your child is talking to
Has your
is
best
not,
interest.
number one, has your best interest at heart, and then is not using your child to further his or her own agenda,
Exactly.
which will not favor you, I can assure you. So, for me, don't judge is the most critical advice I can give. Hear them out. Be their friend. I love when I see parents who ask them, so what happened in school today? Who's your best friend?
Yes.
Oh, my best friend is Feromi. Why is Feromi your best friend? I say, he's always carrying my bag. Hey, your friend carries your bag, and you just have that conversation back and forth, and you're building friendship.
Yeah.
The day he comes and says, I showed Tobiloba my homework, and you say, really? Why did Tobiloba ask to see your homework? He didn't do his own, so I just helped him and showed him. Now, at the back of your mind, you know that's wrong. Now, you don't now say, hey, you are showing me, do you know that's cheating? Do you know that? And then you shout, and tomorrow he will not tell you anything again. But if you listen to the whole thing, and then you say, but you know Tobiloba should be doing his own homework at home too.
Exactly. Your
And
tone.
so you have that talk. Your tone of voice
Exactly.
is very key. You don't use harsh responses and all of that. Like I said, if they're not talking to you, they're talking to somebody else. And a lot of times it's their mates they're talking to, who, blind leading blind. The person they're talking to too doesn't know anything,
Exactly.
just has ideas, or one or two, this, and then they're sharing it, and before you know it, that's the partner, that's the advisor, that's the mentor, that's that doesn't know his left from his right. Who will it favor? It will not favor you, definitely.
Cannot favor
So
your
please, let's listen and not judge.
Yeah. We listen, we don't judge.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Ma, are there early signs of disconnect between parent and child? How do parents find out or realize on time that there is a disconnection between them and their children or child?
I think the first key is, and it's not rocket science really. Just take a look back at when you were a child. When did you disconnect from your parents? When was that disconnect? And maybe because some of us never even had the relationship that was a communicative kind of relationship. So if you have a child who you built up relationship of communication with, the moment the child doesn't want to talk to you, then you know there's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no there's no one solution fits all in this. How did you start raising that child? So I've tried as much as possible to have open communication with all my kids. That doesn't mean I don't spank or I don't do discipline. I do. I punish my kids. But they also know that they can always walk into my room and annoyingly enough, just start talking. And I'm like, hello, I'm on the phone, or hello, I'm doing something. But they just start talking because they know that I'm heading to that room and she's going to answer me. If I want my second daughter will say, can you drop your phone and give me time? I want to talk to you. Can we talk? Okay, so the moment, God forbid, she gets to the point where she doesn't see the need, then I know there's a problem. So if my kids are usually quiet, I'm going to have to ask, are you okay? I may be driving and there's nothing happening in the back. I'm like, are you guys okay? Are you fine? I learned that from my dad, funny enough, because once I'm quiet, which I always am, randomly just ask, what are you thinking? Are you okay? And of course, because I was scared stiff of him, I just go, nothing. So parents need to be able to have those pools, like you said, converse with your child. If you are not talking to that child, somebody else is talking. Somebody else is showing the child the way. And that way will not favor your government. So ask your children random questions and not yes or no close-ended questions. Have open-ended questions. How was your day? Your child goes, fine. What happened in school? Let them begin to talk. Because the more the child talks, the more you're able to understand what's going on
in their
head. There was a case where it happened to each of them, but I'll use this scenario where my son was in pre-nursery.
Okay.
And then his sister got colored pencils for her birthday, like very unique colored pencils, crayons. And only found out that he had taken 7 out of the 10 to school to dash his friends. Oh, yes. To dash his friends. And we found out the sister was livid. And he said, so I was upset. You took your sister's stuff. But then on second thought, I said, come, why did you do this? And that's how I began to understand his mindset. Why did you take your sister's pencils? And he said, I wanted my friends to like me. And I know that if I give them stuff, if your child can't explain in clear terms why they're doing what they're doing, you've lost them.
Yeah.
Because it means they're not even processing at all. He said, I wanted my friends to like me. So I gave them, and then so we had to go back into that conversation. You're not a politician. That's not the way you do things. The Bible says, if you want to have friends, you must first show yourself friendly. And that doesn't mean taking your sister's things to do that. So we need to be able to build that. And it's really based on conversation, really. There's no way you can't say because I'm throwing money at you, you need something I buy it for you. It's not about buying the stuff.
Yeah.
It's having a relationship.
Yes.
So if your boyfriend or your girlfriend is not talking to you, you know that's a problem. So why do we think it's strange our kids not talking? Yeah, so communication is something that must be.
And while you were talking about that, something came to my mind that I've experienced. You know, some children shut down on their parents because they feel they're going to use whatever they've told
against
them in the future.
Yes.
So parents should take note of that because it makes them close up and not trust their parent anymore. Once they lose that
it's
trust.
not that they feel. They know.
They know.
They know. It's not a feeling. Feeling means something in the abstract or
possibility,
the ephemeral. Or they know.
It will be used against them.
Every time something goes wrong in the house,
they refer to
the mother says, that is how last week you did this,
exactly.
That is how 2 weeks. Sometimes incidents of 5 years ago,
African
they are still raising it.
Here we are.
And then I will come and tell you another one. So that you use against me again.
Yes, another thing that works against parents that I've seen is the mom comes and says, what happened? Tell me the truth. And you tell the child the truth, and the mom goes to the father. The mom has promised you that I will not tell your dad. When they have their private conversation, he told me this, he told me that. And the father comes to you sometime later and,
Okay, so let's strike a balance to that.
Okay.
Because there are scenarios where the child does something or the child is going through something and tells the mother in confidence. Depending on what it is, the dad should know.
Okay.
Depending on what it is.
Okay.
If it's not heavy or life-threatening, then of course you can overlook. But depending on if it's something that has to do with character formation or something that has to do with life or the future of that child, make me promise from now till thy kingdom come. I'm going to tell the father.
Good.
But, bros, can you for no reason? Like,
exactly.
This is me and you tag team. Why are you going like, So that's the thing. Because
Yeah.
the child can live their life not ever knowing that the daddy knew about it.
Exactly.
But if the daddy doesn't have the sense of character and emotional intelligence to know that this thing shouldn't have gone back to the child, then that's what the problem is.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for that. Salvi, directing this question to you. How do you think teachers can be empowered to manage their children effectively? You know how the country is. Inflation is like 4 times, 5 times in Nigeria in 1 year. it's yes, and that can actually put teachers off balance and make them a little bit cranky, and then job instability in some places and all of that. How do you think teachers can be empowered to manage their children effectively?
Okay. Empowerment comes in many forms, but one of the easiest empowerment forms is training. Training. What a person doesn't know, he doesn't know. What you don't have, you can't give.
Yeah.
So, when a teacher does not understand the rudiments of emotional intelligence, how does he even give it or implement it in a class system? The primary job of a teacher is to ensure, first and foremost, that the classroom setting is a conducive one for learning for the child. What does that mean? How do you make the classroom a conducive one for the child to learn in? The child must be at peace. The child must be physically comfortable, must be emotionally comfortable. Because that way he can listen to you and can also express, oh, I don't understand, or oh, can I say my bit, or you understand. But when all those things are not there, then the learning process is hampered. And once that is happening, then you find out that it's a vicious cycle. Then he cannot assimilate well or concentrate and all that. Then his output is poor. Then the teacher is angry that with all the effort I've been making, we are still not. Meanwhile, you will keep doing all that effort and teaching and extra, and the child will still not, because the environment is not okay. And what is the thing that makes it? Your awareness, that emotional intelligence is so key, and yet is the one thing that we overlook. I've had to teach a few schools, teachers, had a teacher training moment for a few schools, and when we do emotional intelligence training, I even have a workbook for that. They end up leaving that session shaking their heads like, I wish I had known this a long time ago. Oh, I wish some of these things, I couldn't just put my finger on it, but now I know what to do. Now, because we give them practical steps. This is what you should do when you get into your classroom. How do you get your children to express themselves? Color coding, you give different behaviors, colors, or different feelings, colors. So yellow is for when I'm feeling happy. Blue is when I'm feeling down. Red is when I'm feeling angry. So when a child is going through those emotions and cannot express, you say, how are you feeling? You put all the colors there, they pick red. So okay, this guy is angry. He says, okay, so what's getting you angry? From there, they learn to express. So when a child knows that, look, this is a safe place for me, then they are relaxed and they are open and things happen. So emotional intelligence is key for the teacher to understand. What is emotional intelligence, really? It's understanding and managing your own emotions, your environment in that emotion, how you respond in different situations within that environment, and managing other people's emotions too. That's emotional intelligence. And once you have that understanding, then getting things done, getting people to cooperate, communicating effectively. When you have a class of, okay, don't let me use the government standard. Government standard now is like 50 and above in a class. I'm sure you know that. In public
80
schools.
plus, actually.
Yes.
What?
Yes. You are in a private school, so
No,
that's why you're
only
surprised. But if you go to public schools, the non-Ajebo schools,
Girls.
when you go to those ones,
80 plus, and
we are
then you have
talking
A, B, C, D.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah, but even let's even bring it down a bit to some that are 50. Even 50 is crazy. Not to talk of 80. That 80, let's even say, is extreme. Even 50 children in a class is crazy.
The classrooms are small.
It doesn't matter. Don't worry about that one. It's government school.
It's a government school.
And these are things we need to address.
Oh
now,
my God.
so you pack 50 children into a classroom and you want to use a one-size-fits-all formula for all of them.
Not possible.
Children from different backgrounds, different homes, different parents,
Not
everything.
possible.
And then you just do one-size-fits-all, bam. And they must all key into it. And then when they're not keying into it, you as a teacher, you get angry, you punish who you should punish, you hit, like you saw the woman, you hit the boy, as if that hit him, there's a wire that is, you know, there's a wire that is not connected. So when you hit her hair, the thing will connect properly, you know. And that's what we do. Meanwhile, why don't we just think these things through? And that's what emotional intelligence is all about. And until we come to that point where we realize that this is a must-have. It's not a good to know. That there's a difference. You know, there's something you say, oh, it would be nice to know this thing. It's a must-have. Because, I mean, you're dealing with these children, everybody, every human being that lives on this earth, as long as you are human, you are a bag of emotions.
Yes.
And different things trigger different emotions at different times. So if you do not understand that and know how to handle, then there'll be a problem. And so that's my starting point.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir, for that. That was really comprehensive. While you were talking, you mentioned something about emotional intelligence and how it connects to compassionate teaching. Teachers have to be compassionate. Now, I think it's very important for us to talk about what compassionate teaching has to do. As a teacher, I think I should address that. Compassionate teaching, I would say, is when you listen to the child and try to hear their point of view as regards things. I'll give examples. You have a child who has difficulty with a math topic and the child is struggling and cannot grasp it. And you go to the child, oh, it's okay. Like you make the child realize that you're not that bad, because they know that there are other children who are better than them in class, and that has brought down their self-esteem in a way.
Yeah.
And then you make them realize that, okay, this is not so bad, let's do this together. And then you start from the scratch, you help them, you try to, explain to them again, step by step. Even if they don't get the whole thing, they get something, they get a step. That's an achievement. You praise them for that. You build their self-esteem because it help them to grasp more. And then another way to have compassionate teaching is when a child is down, or you realize that a child in your class is not as active as usual, and you're able to call, his network is not up today, or his whatever is not down today. And then you're able to call the child and then, oh, what's happening to you today? How do you feel today? Why are you so down today? And then you're able to find out how they feel, have a conversation with them instead of just assuming and tell them, okay, it's okay, and tell them what to do. Maybe try to address the step. Maybe they felt down from home. Something happened at home, or their parents fought, or something happened at home. So you're able to find out what the problem is and address the problem. That's actually being a compassionate teacher. That way you're able to address their emotions, you're able to get them open up to learning, because if they're not emotionally stable, if they're not set for learning, there's nothing you want to tell them that will stick. Yeah. So compassionate teaching as a teacher is really, really important, and it must be implemented in schools. So would you like to say something
Yes, I just want
it?
to add something to that.
Okay.
At the heart of compassionate teaching
Yes.
is empathy.
Yes, definitely.
Which not everybody has.
Yes.
Empathy and not sympathy.
Sympathy.
Yes.
Now, sympathy is more condescending. So something is wrong with this child. Hey, sorry, that's sympathy. But empathy is when you put yourself
in the child's
in
shoes.
that child's shoes and say, wow, this child must be feeling really awful for not getting this thing. I need to understand him or her better. And so you have that conversation like you just said. You understand? Now, one of the things that help is also letting them know that, oh, maybe you can share stories. Oh, do you know that at a point in time, I was like you? And this is how I struggled with it. And this is what I did to overcome it. Would you mind trying that? Can we do it together? So, oh, my teacher too went through wow. So empathy is the key to compassionate
Teaching.
Teaching.
You understand? So when you do empathy with the child, that's your connection point. The child says, oh, this person totally gets me. And you see, when you follow, like Stephen Covey says, he says, seek first to understand and then be understood. Yes, seek first to understand. So try to understand first. Because when you understand, then it's easier to, pass your message across. Because now you know how this person is thinking, how this person is reasoning, how best to communicate what you want to do. But once you don't understand and all you are seeing is the limitation, the lack of, and you're just getting worked up over that. Because I've seen some teachers, they say, oh, this child is too dull. I don't like it. And I keep asking, so what is your job?
Thank you.
And then you find out that most teachers just want a child who's already made. Brilliant child. I say once, he grabs it. And so my work is stress-free. I'm saying it, they're just grabbing it sharp. So what is your work really?
Exactly.
But taking it from that teacher who just thinks they want a ready-made student, I want to take it into the public schools. Because I've had some really personal experiences in the public school setting.
Okay.
Especially when you have kids that are about 80 something in a class. And I'm not saying Ibadan, I'm saying Abuja.
What?
Yes. In the cities of Abuja, you have government schools that have 80 something in the class. And they have multiple classes. Now, you have a teacher who just comes to class with an attitude, with her own personal issues, her own, whatever it is that is plaguing her life and destiny. She brings it into class to kids from different backgrounds who are struggling through different things. And you're teaching a key subject, and all you do is just
write notes,
copy notes. You say you're explaining, but nobody's understanding what you are saying. And I remember that one teacher, because I check notes, and then I go to the teacher and like, what's happening with this girl on this note? And I go, she's very lazy, she's very dash, she doesn't, and I'm like, no.
What are you doing about it?
No, I'm not the regular mother. I know, I pay attention, I know. Now, that child stayed in that school, hating that particular course, and just, like, I'm not doing. But moving to another state with another teacher who takes their time and explains and is actually, see, I tell people in the office space, nobody really cares what you're going through at home. When you get to the office, deliver, drop it at the door.
Entrance, yes.
If you choose to pick it afterwards, though, it's okay. It's all right. Go and pick it.
Yes.
But as long as you step into the office space, into the classroom, you are not the wife of somebody who was beaten that morning.
Yeah.
You didn't have a fight. You didn't do anything. Your blood pressure is irrelevant. Whatever it is that is doing is irrelevant. Even if it is irrelevant, focus on those kids. Because those kids are listening to you. Those kids need you to validate them. They need you to teach. And that child ended up becoming the best biology student.
Oh, great.
Yes, because another teacher somewhere saw potential. Another teacher sat down and explained and communicated and was empathic. And that child... So the teachers need to understand that it's beyond just saying, give them a training, really.
Running the syllabus.
Yes, it's not about that. It's you as a person. What's your mission in that classroom in the first place? If you're not going to be I don't think we have many teachers anymore who see teachers as a calling.
Or who see themselves as a change agent.
Yeah, it's just a stopgap till things get better, or a place to just while away time. I think that really has to stop.
Yes, that has to stop. And this next question, I'm going to channel it to you, ma'am.
Okay.
How can schools ensure teachers' mental health is prioritized?
Ooh, the school or the individuals themselves?
The government, the individuals.
Okay, leave the government
well.
out of institution of helping teachers. No, leave the government out of it. Schools can start. What's the mental health really? Somebody's mental health is the ability to, their mental well-being, the ability to cope with stress and handle issues in summary. So schools need to make sure that teachers are not overwhelmed with workload. When I was a teacher in Jos, we literally closed by 2. But then I noticed that teachers are in school 4, 5. And a teacher takes 4 subjects, and not even light subjects, heavy subjects, and then their workload is heavy. It's impossible for that teacher to give their best. So the teacher is stressed, the teacher is overworked, overwhelmed, because depending on what class, what age group he or she is taking, he has to first contend with emotional stress from dealing with those kids. That's why parents are so quick to want to send their kids to school, because it's a load off them. Then you give a teacher who is dealing with max, on the average, 50 kids. And that same teacher must write lesson notes for so many subjects, must mark those notes. School fees is high. Can the school owners not be overwhelmingly self-centered? And this is me talking from being in the education system. Spread out funds in a way that you can hire teachers to take the workload, so each teacher is effective. You don't just want to say, oh, I have 10 teachers, and then each teacher is taking like 5 persons' work. You can't, the person is going to break down, he's going to lash out. He wants to hurry up with the classroom work so he can go back and do administrative work. So there is that juggle. That's where I think the school needs to work on. The teachers themselves need to do what I call self-care. You can't kill yourself.
No.
You cannot come and kill yourself. Journaling is going to be one key thing that the teacher is going to have to be able to do, instead of lashing out at that child. When you get back home, you know what, just take your journal and just spread out your emotions in your journal about how you feel about that child. You'll be shocked that as you're journaling, clarity is coming to you on how to deal with that child. And then tomorrow you can go back and address the child and say, you know, this and this and this and this. So journaling. Then in the US, I know we have what we call Alcoholics Anonymous. Can we have a support group for teachers? Not where they are gossiping, not where they are maligning a child. No, because there's some staff rooms that feel like the pit of hell. You walk in that staff room, and the things that you hear teachers saying about the kids. Support groups where teachers who are stressed, who are seemingly getting burned out, can come together, talk, find better ways to handle the education system. Have forums, parents, teachers, students. So parents, teachers, school owners, have forums, have those conversations. The PTA meetings shouldn't just be about the school trying to fleece parents and extorting money from parents.
You know, PTA meetings are actually war zones.
Exactly, and I try to avoid them as much as possible. It shouldn't be that.
It's a war zone. Yes. Everybody comes with their ammunition.
Exactly.
The teachers are ready, the students are ready, the school management is ready.
Yes.
So yeah, come. Me too. I'm waiting. I couldn't know that's what you say. And you know, so
like the teachers,
that's not the best place.
That's not the best. No, like the parents come. If the focus of PTA can be turned, it'll be more productive.
Yeah.
I think that's a utopian. How do you turn focus?
It's possible.
See, don't forget, it's not about education, it's about self. The average human being has self-preservation at their uppermost mind.
Which is true.
So, I'm coming there with my agenda, different from your agenda, different from her agenda. So how do we turn that? Yeah. Everybody is there to promote one thing or the other. So that environment, yeah, you can do some things to control all of that, but that's not the best place for the mental health of the teacher.
So support groups have to be created.
So, thank you. Yeah. So let's remove PTA. That's all I'm just saying. PTA is not the fact. Maybe sometime in 2075, maybe PTA will work. But for now, I think a deliberate support group is the way forward. I was going to say that, and I was so happy when you said that. So it means we're all thinking in the same direction. Because when you have people who are going through the same thing, come together and share, and then they are steered or guided by somebody who has an insight to how to manage. Most teachers are burnt out.
Megally.
Now, if I say let me start going into burnout and stress management, that's another thing entirely, but that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Really. So let me just keep quiet.
Yeah, and then counseling. Teachers need to have access to counseling.
Oh, yeah.
Really, there almost seems to be no guardians and counseling teachers in school anymore. Like that whole segment in the whole system seems to have been wiped away. But I'm not talking about counseling for students right now. I'm talking about counseling for teachers, because a teacher who is burnt out needs a therapist. Really, needs a therapist that he or she can go and pour out. Especially if you have a parent like me in your school. Oh yes, you will need access. You will need access to counseling if you have a parent like me in your school. Because if I see anything that I think is threatening to my child, I will actually come to you and say no. So I think so. The parents, the teachers also need access to counseling because they need to get their heads on straight as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I would have loved to go into PTA, but I think we should leave that for next time. Because, okay, I'll just say this. Many parents keep box up a lot of complaints and say, okay, it's on PTA day, I will come and talk about it. Meanwhile, they can talk about it during school hours, talk to the head of school, talk to the teachers about it, and resolve it. And then at PTA, talk about developmental things, goals, things that you can do, the school can do better to get their children achieve more in their school.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that some other time and expatiate on that. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Click on the notification button as well, so you'll be notified when we upload new videos. Do not forget to share this video with other parents and people who you think would need this video. Do not also forget to comment and share your opinions. Ask us questions and talk about your concerns about this video. Of course, you know that this topic is inexhaustible. Watch this space for follow-up episode. I wouldn't have been able to do this without the help of these amazing people, these amazing experts. Thank you so much, Ayoade, and thank you so much, Sele, for being on this show. It was really educative, and we're so glad to have you. Thank you so much. We look forward to having you some other time. And thank you so much for watching this video today. Have a good time. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.